I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
Cross is boss, but it's also over and out. The road season now is our main focus until October. We've had one-day races in Europe, but since the past week, stage racing is back on the continent. The Volta Ciclista La Comunitat Valenciana kicked it off, and it was swiftly followed by the Etoilles de Besseges. And over in Saudi Arabia, we also had the AlUla Tour. All in all, a week full of racing. I'm Bram, and I'll be your guide through today's Domestique cycling podcast. And I am joined by our latest Domestique, Ethan. Hey there.
Hello there. Thanks for having me on.
Ethan, you've done a few podcast episodes now with Domestique, even a few interview podcasts. How are you finding it?
I'm enjoying it. It's a great experience. I love talking to all the riders, getting so much information, and it's just nice to have a chat about cycling, things that I like. So it's great.
Awesome to hear. I was thinking of starting off today in sunny Spain. How does that sound for you with your British sensibilities?
It sounds perfect. Much more sunny than here. Good old England.
All right. Let's start off with the Volta Ciclista, La Comunitat Valenciana, as is its full name. A stage race in which we saw quite a similar start list to the majority of the Mallorca Challenge, which I think you guys talked about last week. But also still a lot of guys kicking off their season. It's a race with 5 stages all over the Valencia region. And I think it's fair to say we got a really interesting race starting from stage 1. Did you watch it?
I watched the finish where I seen the two guys come across the line together, which is quite epic. A small team, it's like a fairy tale, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It was a win for VF Group Bardiana CSF Faisane. Beautiful name for a team, just rolls off the tongue, with Tonelli in first place and Tarozzi in second place. But I've watched pretty much the whole race, and I kind of have the feeling that the Peloton really gave this one away. Since you didn't watch that, I'm guessing you also don't know what happened before that.
I didn't really know what happened. I looked at Domestique live and I seen two VF Group Badani guys come across the line. I was shocked.
So there was a break of 7, which was quite a strong break, and then suddenly the advantage ballooned up to 9 minutes with like 70 kilometers to go. So that was it was quite lumpy terrain, so normally you'd be able to make that up, but in the bunch no team really wanted to start chasing. I think at start Michael Matthews was the favorite, but then Jake AlUla just stopped chasing. Apparently Michael Matthews didn't quite feel very good, kind of seen in the rest of the week as well. So they just gave up chasing, and the break went, and we did see a final effort on the descent towards the line of our Slovenian friend Matej Mohoric. Did you see that clip? Because that was amazing.
Mohoric just descending is just always something to be amazed at. He just leaves everything on the line no matter what, and it's just, I wish there was more of it on display in the Peloton.
Mm-hmm. Is Matej Mohoric the best descender of the current Peloton?
By a mile, yeah. It must be. Surely.
But some people are even calling him the best descender of all time. I don't know if he's earned that title yet, but what's your thought on that?
2 more years, or if he does the same in like Milan San Remo a few more times, if he does that again, then I think we got to agree there, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is tricky to pinpoint, a go of descending, because, it's very hard to compare efforts. But I think a really good Alaphilippe could give him a run for his money.
Yeah, I'd say that as well, yeah. I'll give you that one.
All right, on to stage 2. Also quite a lumpy stage, with a big climb finishing 10Ks from the line, and basically everyone at start mentioning one favorite. And again, it was our Slovenian Daredevil. I think just later they just proved everyone right with a huge descent from the Alto Pla de Corai. What actually makes him such a good descender? Because is it just having the balls to do it, or is there something else too?
It's got to be the balls mentality of like, if you like crash, you crash basically, and just not being afraid. It's what some other riders in the peloton really need, in my opinion. Just imagine if Felix Gao had that descending ability, it'd be incredible.
Yeah, he'd be basically unstoppable. But what I thought was really interesting after the stage, Mohoric said, I didn't really try to take any risks because, I don't want to have a crash in February. Like, you just put half a minute on a descent into the whole peloton, and you were saying you were taking it easy.
It can be the same for the peloton though, really, as well. Does anyone want to really risk it in February?
Yeah, I mean, but is that just then him? That is his base level descending versus the base level descending of the peloton, and he just puts half a minute in them. That's incredible.
So when his peak.
Yeah, I mean, I just watched that and basically clenched the whole way down because I'm a terrible descender, and just watching that is, yeah.
It's just the mentality you need, isn't it? Really.
It's an art form, but it's also scary. And he just doesn't feel. I guess he's just not afraid of it, and just.
It should be like more of an extreme sport in itself, really. Kind of.
Yeah. I guess that also makes him the gravel world champion. He definitely was able to put those skills to good use there. Anything else about this stage that stood out to you?
No, I think the peloton just not taking risks at the start of the season, really.
I mean, quite understandable. On the third day, we finally got a sprint stage with Jonathan Milan showing some of that raw power of his that he's kind of gotten known for in the past year. He finished ahead of Arne Maritz. Do you feel Milan has taken a step up compared to last year yet? Or is that too early to tell?
I need to see who he goes against first before I judge, because let's be honest, the Valenciana, he wasn't really against like elite level sprinters, like for example Welsford, I'd say Gamay, who else, Philipson. If he did that there, then I'd respect it, but he really has to take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to call it a really good effort from the team, his new team, Little Trek. They seem to have delivered him perfectly. There was a crash in almost like right before the last kilometer, which really reduced the group that sprint for the line. But the way that he got delivered, well, I think Arne Maritz was just in his wheel and was happy to stay there because there was no opportunity for him to get past.
It was just like a post delivery, really, wasn't it? It was like, there you go, 300 meters, 200 meters borderline, there you go, there's your win. Basically, what he did. It was incredible. And that crash was quite a big, wasn't it, to be fair? I think Matthews was caught up in that. If I remember.
He was already feeling a bit off, but I think that also took him out of the race. I think he didn't start the next day. But to be fair, Jonathan Milan was always the favorite for that stage. Just looking at the field of sprinters at Valenciana. So I do agree with you when you say we can't really draw too many conclusions. It's Valenciana. There's basically very few sprinters here.
It's like Jayco's had a bit of bad luck, haven't he, really? But Simon Yates fixed it a bit, I think. But yeah, Matthews crashing is, I want to see what actually happened to him, because I don't know what his injuries are. I need to find that out.
Yeah,
it's not really said.
I think the first day he was already feeling a bit ill. But then of course he was in a spot to contend that sprint on stage 3, so he probably felt a little bit better. But yeah, that definitely took it out of him as well. And yeah, Jake AlUla's had a pretty unfortunate start of the season. First in Australia with Caleb Ewan and Luke Plapp kind of, well, being a little bit unfortunate in the Tour Down Under, and here as well. I hope they turn it around soon. And then of course stage 4 we had the Queen stage. Sadly that was shortened due to the tragic death of an amateur cyclist near the finish line at Valdebo. Of course, our sympathies go out to the family of that cyclist. This meant that the stage ended on the Alto del Miserat. I had never heard of this climb before, but I think now it will live on forever in my memory because, well, I'll let you explain. What did you think of that climb?
It just kept going up and up and up, didn't it? Like just dead short. And then you get the TV cameras on the motorbike, and it just looked back, and you just see the Mediterranean Sea within like 5 minutes. Like you could see so far. It was crazy. Just this gradient was going on and on and on. I think there was even like a car behind that he went off road because the gradients were just insane.
Yeah, it was probably also the fact that we didn't have distance markers played into it a lot. I think for the riders as well. But that climb was just brutal, so steep. And I was at start a little bit worried that they wouldn't catch the break because of the shortening of the stage suddenly meant that at 20 kilometers to go, the break still had 2.5 minutes. But I think on the Alto del Miserat, that, yeah, you couldn't pretty much make up 2 minutes on that climb from the GC group.
It was crazy. It just, even at the start, it was just straight away. You're just straight in the deep end. It was insane.
This stage was won by a very impressive Brandon McNulty ahead of Buitrago and Vlasov. The American and the Russian seem to be in pretty amazing form very early in the season. They were also really good in Mallorca as well. Do you think they're, well, I kind of think that they're peaking very early in the season because probably the rest of their season is going to be Domestique work. So are these kind of the months where they get to do their thing?
I'd say, yeah, that's a good point because McNulty's going to be doing a lot of his work in, is he going to the Giro?
I think he's going to the Giro, yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to be doing a lot of work with Pogačar there.
Vlasov as well. But he's going there for a GC, he says. Because Roglic is not going to the Giro.
It's going to be not Roglic, Vlasov's last year of doing basically a chance at a GC at Bora, I'd say. If he doesn't deliver, then not good for him.
Yeah, definitely. Oh wait, I think actually Vlasov is not going to Giro. At least he's not been announced. So
Vuelta or Tour?
Definitely the Tour. Yeah, he's definitely for the Tour group. But I don't think they've announced a Giro squad yet. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting early season for them. Vlasov has always struck me as a rider who doesn't really win that easily. But in the early season here, he seems very strong and determined to start off well.
Yeah, impressive form. He probably could have got a win.
Oh, in Mallorca?
No, in Valenciana, I think. But yeah, if he just was able to follow the attack of McNulty, but he was too strong, especially that one where I think Buitrago went on the radio and he just caught both of them napping. It was a wonderful attack.
Yeah, especially since, well, maybe he knew how far it was to go. I think the TV coverage was like, oh, we're in the final kilometers. So I was like, okay, that's a great moment for attack. But actually turns out to be about 2 kilometers left to go. That did make it a lot harder than I expected.
It would be quite funny, wouldn't it, if there was just no markers anywhere for climbs? Just imagine that. The riders just left on their own.
Right, at this stage, I don't know if they had markers. I didn't see
I don't
any on
think
the
they
set.
did. Yeah, you just had to rely on the radio in the car, I guess.
Yeah, but if you're on those hills, I don't know how reliable team radio is really.
Yeah,
Um, well, and then we have one more stage here, stage 5. Um, did you watch that one?
I definitely watched that one. I was amazed by Barta.
I didn't watch this one. I just know that it was an impressive win from the American. Talk us through it.
It was 50k to go. He was left alone by some after the breakaway, just formed, and then he just kept going. 10k to go, yeah. Another 30k, then 20k, 10k, and it was like very bendy, windy roads. Like the typical Spanish street. And the peloton just couldn't catch him at all. It was stayed at a gap of around 15 seconds, and the TV coverage looked like it was getting caught. Then it went back out. His TT position that he went in, it was
I mean,
insane.
he's an insanely strong rider, but doing a move like this, I never expected it from him,
At
especially with the
first,
peloton chasing as hard as they did.
yeah, first ever professional win as well for him, which is pretty amazing. And it was nice for Movistar as well. I thought they would do it a bit earlier, but they put some riders in the front of the peloton to just disorganize the chase. I think Lascano went on the front with around 4k to go, but it was a bit late in my opinion doing it. It should have been done much earlier.
Well, Movistar tactics, not the
Typical.
greatest combination, but they ended up doing it anyway. Um, all right, that's it for our little trip to Spain. Let's head over to France for the Etoiles de Besseges. Of course, the first stage from Bellegarde to Bellegarde, which was basically always going to be won by Mats Pedersen, got cancelled due to farmer protests. We won't see his win there this year. But on stage 2, we did see a very strong Mats Pedersen as well, but we saw one rider who was stronger. Axel Laurence, very young guy, and honestly, that sprint was amazing.
Bursting onto the scene like that is. People who knew about him knew he could do that. So it's just quite amazing how there's so many young riders at the same time in cycling just coming through like that. It's just.
It does seem like late January, early February. We've already spoken about so many young guys that are just bursting onto the scene, and we'll talk about a few more in this episode alone, where it's like the old, like the previous generation of riders, they must be like, not another one.
That was like Tobias last week. He was saying, it was like, wow, I need to go and look at all these guys who are coming up because I'm mind blown. He was saying.
Yeah, I mean, Axel Laurence is the reigning U23 road champion from Glasgow. He, like, what he did there was also, well, an incredible performance. I think he puked after the line.
Yeah, I've seen another Twitter post of that yesterday, or X, the same thing. And you just see him, he just absolutely gave everything. He was literally nearly dead.
Yeah, but, well, I think in Besseges, sprinting like that against Mats Pedersen on a finish like that is kind of a Mats Pedersen finish. Like, Etoile de Besseges is just the Mats Pedersen race. And to beat him there is just incredible.
That's like just saying a big statement saying, I'm here, isn't it?
Yeah, but also for like a young French guy, being able to do that in a French race. But also do have to give a shout out to Kevin Vauquelin, who does seem to have made another extra step up, finishing third on that stage 2, and just been very impressive throughout the whole race. I think it's one of those guys from Arkea. We already saw a lot of him last year. It's just going to become a very strong, also like a GC guy for these 1 week races and maybe more. What are your thoughts on his future?
I'd say GC 1 week races then because he did a very strong performance.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to stage 3, and here we finally got to see the real Mats Pedersen show, where he beat Milan Menton and Rasmus Tiller in the sprint. Yeah, this seemed to be a pretty easy win. This was also on a day where I think Little Trek won with Milan as well, that we already talked about, and Gibbons in South Africa. So it was just a all-around very good day for the team.
Yeah, very good day. They literally perfected everything, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how much else we can say about this stage, because it was just Mats Pedersen being Mats Pedersen. To be fair, the sprinting power in Besseges as well is not amazing, but still, yeah, you have to finish off the work from your team, and he did that beautifully. And of course, picking up some bonification seconds for the GC, which is going to be very important going forward. In stage 4, another French win, and to be honest, this was one that I don't think anyone saw coming. If people had bets on this guy, Samuel Leroux, I think they're rich now.
You'd be more than rich, surely. Yeah, probably won't be able to bet on him, would you?
I don't know. You're the better of the two. Well, the betting guy from the two of us. Yeah, the break just stood right till the end. Very well. They almost got caught. I think they ended up with 2 seconds lead over the bunch. But yeah, I think Leroux was still there with Besseges and the Bond.
The Bond and was the Berg.
Oh, right. From UNOX, I think he was in the break as well. Yeah. So yeah, again, first win for Samuel Leroux from the Van Rijssel Roubaix team. I think this is going to be their biggest win in a long time. To win on such a big stage, a big race, kind of. Yeah, we've seen now 2 smaller teams winning these with Bardiani as well in Valenciana, winning these kind of big stages very early in the season. Must be amazing for them.
It's like, that's what you want to see in cycling, is the David and Goliath.
Definitely, because you kind of expect your UAEs and Visma Lisa bikes. I keep wanting to say Jumbo Visma. That's gonna take a while. But it's really nice seeing these smaller teams take wins as well, especially a team like Van Rijssel Roubaix, which has been around for a considerable amount of time.
Is it their first professional win since 2019?
Oh, that could be.
I think that's a stat I've seen.
Then that is even more incredible. I also really like their kits. It's even pinker than the EF kit, which kudos to them for making a kit that's more pink than EF.
That's like proper Pink Panther kit. That's what I think.
I love
proper Pink Panther. It is, and I think that's the best out of any cycling team so far.
Yeah, we never. Well, we made a video about the men's teams in the World Tour, but we didn't look at that one. But that surely would have been S tier. Okay, then the last stage of Besseges, a time trial over how long was it? About 30 kilometers or?
It was 10.6.
Oh, 10.6, a shorter one.
Yes.
I think what struck me the most about the results there, EF Education domination except for the win. They have 5 riders in the top 7. I think they must be very happy about their TT setup. But of course they didn't fight for the win. That was for Kevin Vauquelin, who I didn't know he was actually good at TTs, although 10-kilometer TT is a little bit special, and it was finish on a pretty good hill. Still, I didn't quite expect that from him.
Yeah, it was a 3 kilometer, 5% climb. It's a good effort from them. And Mads Pedersen as well. EF, it's like me playing Pro Cycling Manager that when I see the result there. Just always near the top, never winning.
It's still, but good points.
Yeah, it's very good points. A big haul of points, in fact.
Well, and considering their team there, it was also a very strong team with Alberto Bettiol, Healy, Quinn, Carr, who's already won a race in Mallorca, and Bissiger, of course. I'm kind of surprised that Bissiger didn't finish higher up, since he is the TT specialist. Very curious what we're going to see from Bissiger this year. Because in my opinion, it's kind of his make it or break it year as a TT specialist, or does he switch entirely to domestiquing? Yeah,
I agree with that as well, because he really needs to like deliver the big time, you know.
Yeah. All right. Enough of Europe. Let's head over to the AlUla Tour. Obviously, very different type of racing there. We see a lot more sprinty stages, some echelons, which is always kind of, well, it's what we expect to see in those desert races, that the stages at least get a little bit interesting that way. Because I think the rest of the stage probably wasn't that interesting. But anyway, stage 1, 149 kilometers, won by Casper van Uden from Team DSM Firmenich PostNL. I think it was his first professional win.
Yeah, that was his first professional win. I was waiting for him to like last year really to just go and do that. He's more of like a classics rider, I think, in my opinion. But to go and out sprint Groenewegen, Meunier, Warenschild, it is very impressive.
Yeah, because we've talked about the other two races not having very strong sprinting fields. That's because all the strong sprinters that are starting their season and are here. You have Groenewegen, Merlier, Warenschild. These guys are not like messing around. Like, these guys are trying to start off their season strongly, and Casper van Uden just beats him. And it was a very open sprint. It was the strongest, I think, and just being the strongest compared to Dylan Groenewegen is an achievement.
Yeah, it was very close, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think it was 60 cent, well, half a wheel in it. Can't have been any more than that. But I just remember seeing that photo of basically all the sprinters next to one another because the road was so wide, and you could basically sprint with the entire top 10 next to one another, which I always think is a really nice picture because you can see all the different teams as well. On stage 2, we have a win for UNOX. Always lovely to see. Søren Warenskjold, also very strong sprinter, of course. Anything you want to say about that stage?
UNOX, the tactics of UNOX always interest me because they're always on the front, always attacking, always positive, and it pays off with Warenschild getting the victory. It was very similar to his victory last year, where it was like that. What was that climb? Ooh. It was like a really, really steep climb before the end, and he got the win. When it was a Saudi tour.
Oh wait, no. Wasn't it this stage as well?
It was stage 2, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Okay, that's basically the same stage. So yeah, it's not really a surprise that he was good here then. But ahead of Henok Mulbruhan, which who also has a really good start to his season. He just awesome all around. Not much else to talk about here. On stage 3, we got a very dominant display from De Merlier. I think that was definitely one of the stronger sprints, and kind of it was on his son's birthday, which is always nice. He showed that in the celebration as well. He won here ahead of Arvid Klein and Casper van Uden. There was a crash not too far from the line, I think. So it was a little bit disrupted, but still, I think Merlier was very dominant here.
It's nice to see though as well. Tudor's sprint train so far, from what I keep seeing from the races, has impressed me a lot. I think they just need to get that final kick right.
Yeah, I mean, this is also kind of early in the season where they got to haul some points to maybe get wild cards at some of the bigger 1 week stage races, so they can get extra points there. It's kind of super crucial for them to start the season off right. I think with the Klein, they definitely have the guy for that. All right, stage 4, same winner, but very different way. First of all, a lot closer, but also I think the longest time I've seen someone sprint in the past 2 or 3 seasons. I think I saw a stat that he was in the wind for 21 seconds. A 21-second sprint. That's incredible.
You wouldn't have expected that from Merlier as well, would you? After seeing it last season, has he taken another step forward?
I think he's definitely gotten like those longer efforts. Those seem to suit him really well. As he said so afterwards in the interview as well, where he's confident that he's got these long efforts in him and he can go from far and hold off whoever wants to try and come for him. In this case, it was Brian Cocard, who ended up getting really close and actually claimed the victory on the line. But on the finish road, it was quite clear that there was about 60 centimeters, no, not 60 centimeters. It was about a rim's width in it. So I don't know how Cocard really got that idea that he won. But that was just a beast sprint from Merlier.
Beat Cocard is basically his own game, really. His own
go early.
No, like an uphill kind of battle,
True. I kind of expected Warnschul to do a little bit better here. He ended up finishing in 8th. This really felt like a finish for him.
Didn't really. Matej in 5th is a nice result. Yeah,
I think this one the team didn't really pick for Groenewegen, obviously, because this was terrible finish for him.
Was he still sick in that stage? Or was he recovered?
I mean, he'll probably still have been sick.
Yeah,
but still, then Mesgec, he gets his chance, and he does make the best of it. And also a very impressive Blemmers here as well from Tudor, getting some of those points in.
Very impressive.
But then, of course, the next day it's the Queen stage with the climbers got to go on quite a steep climb, to be honest, for Saudi Arabia. And I think this is the stage, the race where we're going to remember William Junior Lecerf showing himself really for the first time. The team had a lot of confidence in him. He just wasn't able to finish it off because, Simon Yates was able to do it. Obviously, I don't think that's a shame to lose against a Grand Tour winner. But what a ballsy ride by Le Cerf.
Insane, isn't it? It's impressively quick step recruitment. They've really recruited well over the past season with the young riders coming in. And to go basically show Patrick Lefevre, hello, it's me, isn't it? So he's very small as well. That's what I noticed. 169 centimeters. It was
Yep.
nice and aero, tucked in on his bike. And so I think Dieter mentioned that he was riding a very low cadence.
Yeah, I guess so.
Up
Maybe
the
that's
climb.
something that still comes out of the U23 days where they're used to smaller gearing.
And then he used a bigger gear in the sprint, I think.
Yeah, I think that sprint, he probably was a little bit disappointed in it. I think he did have a chance of winning it, but I think it's the more experienced Simon Yates was just not going to open that door for him and just kept him on the side of the barriers.
I think I've seen in his under 23. Did he win the under 23 Milan San Remo ahead of Archie Ryan? I think he
The
beat him
Lombardy.
Was it Lombardy or Milan San
Yeah.
Remo?
It was Lombardy.
Yeah.
Because it was quite a contentious sprint because there was
He deviated, didn't he, apparently?
Yeah, he did. I don't know if it was enough for a DQ, but there was definitely some deviation going on, and Archie Ryan definitely wasn't happy afterwards. But well, stuff happens. All right.
Johannesson as well. I want to mention
Right.
Anders Harlan Johannesson there on that stage as well. Sixth place he's had a lot to go through, I think, as well.
Definitely. And also Pierre Latour, nice to see him doing well as well. I'm quite a big fan of him. But like this stage design, it's Saudi Arabia. There's not a lot of interesting stages to organize there, but they did the same stage last year, and
it was not the Queen's. It was not like the last stage, was it? It was the fourth. It was the second to last stage, so it just made it a bit. But the sprinters were proper working this time, just getting the guys in the right position.
Right.
And I think the Eurosport commentator Jez Cox mentioned that it's the anniversary next year of like the Saudi race or AlUla Tour, and he said an idea like he had that it should be a time trial up that mountain, which I thought would be
that would be kind of epic. I just really like how you have that plateau after the climb finishes. I think it just, well, usually I'm not a fan of those types of profiles, but here it makes for really exciting races because it's not the pure climber that hasn't, like, if you still have a kick at the end of it, you have a massive advantage. And I think just Simon Yates is a pure climber and also has a kick. So
it needs to be like more of that, I think, as well. Just like a nice flat bit after the top of a climb. It just produce some proper finishes, wouldn't it?
Definitely. All right. I think that's all for our racing for this week. I do want to also call out a little bit of news about French rider Franck Bonamour from HUMILIATES Decathlon. Sorry, still got to get used to that name. Who's been provisionally suspended due to some anti-doping rules with some was it unexplained abnormalities in the biological passport.
Yeah.
This actually comes pretty well, it's a bit awkward for HUMILIATES because they've just had other news about a potential doping violation that it becomes a little bit, I think they definitely didn't want this news right now. Of course, no team ever does. But I think it was last week that it came out that Alex Baudin had his results scrapped from the Giro. Or was it? Did that come out earlier? I don't remember. No, that came out quite a bit earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a good look for a professional team to have two of these cases come out,
especially
relatively
when you got a new
close.
sponsor.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that. Of course, it's a provisional suspension. There will be more news about that hopefully soon. It is the UCI, so it can probably take a while. Yeah, that's it for this week. Do you have anything other to add?
I'm just looking forward to even more racing coming up. And Tour of Oman, Classic Jean is also next Monday. I think that would be nice to watch.
All right. Well, then it's up to me to wrap up Domestique Cycling Podcast for this week. Big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on Ko-Fi or subscribing on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and turn on notifications while you're at it. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.